I started looking at the turbo thinking there's got to be something we could do to get more airflow, make that turbo more efficient for the boost levels that we're trying to achieve with a 3-inch restriction. There's several things about the wheel design. You're not only getting rid of it, you're actually shrinking the core and you're making actually a stronger wheel. We didn't develop the whole boreless wheel. That's something that's been done 20 years, 30 years ago. We just developed the way the blades come and converge to an apex.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Minnoxide podcast. I'm your host, Harris, aka Minnoxide, man of many automotive aspirations, and I'm here with my co-host, Dan, Mr. Gunna Garage.
Yep.
And today we are kicking off the first episode of our PRI series. The backdrop's a little bit different. You may notice that there's a lot more effort that went into this backdrop. We're at the Apex Turbo booth. Many of you may be familiar with the interview we did with Ben Hockman about, 10 episodes ago, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know. They're all a blur for me.
Our Chicago run.
Yeah.
So we got to know about Apex Turbos quite a bit, but you guys being a PRI, we wanted the opportunity to, I guess, meet the people behind it, right? So I'll kind of open up the floor to you, Ryan. You're the owner of the company. Yep. And then Deena. I guess I didn't ask what your official role was earlier.
I'm also part owner with Ryan, but I was acting general manager.
Okay, gotcha. Well, kind of tell us a little bit about what Apex Turbo is, why it's different than any other turbo on the market, and how you guys got your start, and we can kind of go from there.
Okay, well, Apex Turbo was kind of an envision I had several years ago. I was in the sport of truck and tractor pulling. So tractor pulling, it's kind of like a sport where you soup up a diesel engine and you hook to a sled and you try to pull it as far as you can against other competitors. So what do? You want more horsepower and try to find an advantage for that. So it's usually a limited class, kind of like, say the turbocharger was a limitation for the class that you're in. And my particular class I used to pull in is called Super Farm. So it was limited to a 3-inch turbocharger. So 3 inches wheel inducer and the 3-inch exducer on the turbine side. So that was our limitation. So you'd usually buy like a standard off-the-shelf turbo to put on this vehicle, and you try to soup up your engine to, maximize, pistons, cam, all that stuff with the given turbocharger to try to make the pass or make the power enough to pull the sled or this heavy weight that gets progressively heavier and heavier as you go down a dirt track. And so I was like, what can we do to gain an advantage over like our competition? Because it's very competitive in that sport. So one of the things is the turbo, because that is the limitation, is the turbocharger. So I started looking at the turbo thinking there's got to be something we could do to get more airflow. Something that we could do to make that turbo more efficient for the boost levels that we're trying to achieve with a 3-inch restriction. Because that is definitely our main thing that we got to focus on. Because anytime you get a bigger inducer, you're going to make more horsepower. Do you? Maybe not always. Is there ways you can make more power with a given inducer? Well, yeah. There's a lot of things you can do. So we come up with one advantage. I was starting on the turbine side of the wheel,
hot side.
On the hot side. So on the hot side, the older style turbochargers had a pretty good sized retention nut on the back side of it. So it was like, we need to find a way to get more exhaust out to lower back pressures to allow more air into the engine. So we started machining that nut down and making it smaller. We weren't going to the point yet. We were just machining the nut down to try to generate more flow out of the turbine to allow more air in. Well, we started doing that and it was gaining horsepower.
Significant amounts.
Yeah.
Amounts to alarming to say we're onto something here.
Right.
Huh.
So basically we started machining that down and we started getting creative with the nuts and we're like, man, this is really changing the way the turbochargers are performing. So we're like, next thing you know, we're taking the nut right off and started getting to the point, getting the blades. I was hand grinding the nuts down to a point and seeing how that would flow. So then I was showing this to my wife, Deena, and she's like, this is really something. This is helping you and your customers gain some advantage.
While still remaining legal.
Yeah, it's still legal.
Yeah.
It's still 3-inch. That's the key, is keeping the bore diameter at the given size. So we took the nut down and we're like, one day me and her were talking and we're like, this is really something. This is working well.
Yeah. So
we're looking at the compressor side. So if it's working on the exhaust side, why won't it work on the compressor side? So there again, she's like, well, you're onto something.
right.
So-
That's when I started doing some research to see if this
Yeah.
is novel.
Yeah,
and-
has anybody ever done this? So we started like researching, going online, going to trade shows.
Yeah. Went to several industry shows to see if anybody else in the turbo sector was doing anything
was
close
doing
to
like
it,
this.
and we didn't see anything like it.
And
Yeah.
around what time was this, by the way?
This was 2016, 17.
Yep. Yep.
So back then we were, I was like hand manipulating turbos, like making them, my own, trying, different things. And we were really focusing on that turbine side. Well, there all along, we were like, there's got to be something we could do the compressor side because it's a limitation on both ends. We were making gains on the turbine side, so we started focusing our thoughts on the compressor side.
Or even more so, doing that to the wheel and taking that geometry of those blades forms a geometrical apex, hence the name Apex Turbo. That's where
Right.
the name comes from. So I liked the sound of dual apex, right?
Okay.
So before we ever even made an apex wheel on the compressor side, I had a marketing idea on the dual apex. Will this work? And then when we tried it, we found that it was an even bigger gain on the compressor side.
Yeah, the
Interesting,
compressor
okay.
side ends up being the more significant part of the whole wheel and the way the airflow comes in and out. The turbine side, like if you look at the turbine nuts, we actually do take them down. The cores are a lot smaller, but the key factors is the compressor side. Getting the compressor lighter weight, getting the core tighter was making the more horsepower. So we started, back to our story, 2017, we're looking at trade shows, we're looking at turbo manufacturers, we're looking around, we're like, is anybody doing this? And we had seen nothing of it.
But then I started
And then,
doing the patent landscape search, which is the next required
right,
step
see if anybody's ever
in a new
patented
product
this idea.
launch, is to make sure that there isn't, patent rights or somebody else has the intellectual property on these new novel designs. I'd already been able to determine that it was a novel idea. And then the next step, natural step in any business decision, is to make sure that we can obtain the rights to be able to do it. So it was in 2017 when we filed, I believe that was the date when we filed for the patent, and it was patent pending when we launched Apex Turbo at this very show in 2019. We were just outside this hallway as a new kid on the block, not quite sure how we would be received.
Yeah.
You're taking a leap of faith in your vision and your idea and what your company could be when you do that. So launching it at a public venue like that, it turned out to be a great thing. We were very well received. We received a lot of attention that year. People had never seen anything like it. Our competitors were interested, of course. They had never seen anything like it. A lot of distributors here at the PRI show, never seen anything like it. We were claiming a 20% horsepower advantage over a traditional model or traditional style turbo, meaning with a retention nut in place, without the apexing design.
Yep.
People felt that 20% number was out of this world.
Yeah, it was absurd.
It really turns out that 20% claim of power advantage is conservative. We have a lot of customers that are seen well above that.
with the same given size.
With the same frame size turbocharger and the same inlet size or wheel sizes, they're seeing that 20 to 30%
You're talking
horsepower
hundreds of
advantage.
horsepower
So yeah,
differences.
yeah.
Right. Yes.
With the
Crazy.
same size.
Which is crazy and hard
Yeah.
to believe.
And people think that just eliminating the fastener, big deal. It's not just a big deal because there's several things about the wheel design. You're not only getting rid of it, you're actually shrinking the core, and you're making actually a stronger wheel.
Right.
Because the thing is, when you got some of these wheels like that one in particular, when you get rid of that through hole that goes through the compressor wheel, it becomes weaker because you got a place for something to break or fracture or cause issues. When you got a solid core wheel,
It's a stronger piece.
and the blades are attached to that, it's a stronger piece. And it's not something we didn't develop the whole boreless wheel. It's something that's been done 20 years, 30 years ago. We just developed the way the blades come and converge to an apex, bringing the blades further to the point, further to the core. That's what we come up with.
We'll get back to the show in a second, but if you or your shop is building a car this winter, you might need components for an exhaust, an intake, charge piping, and who knows what else, because builds never end. If you need mandrel bends, flex couplers, T-clamps, and more, make Hayes Performance your first stop so you're not sitting around waiting on your stainless steel goodies. Check out everything they have to offer at hayesperf.com and use code Minnoxide for free shipping as well. Let's get back to the show.
Okay.
So if we reverse our story, we started thinking about it. I've been thinking about this stuff forever. We've been monkeying with turbos for, 15 years, but we're learning what's making them better. And that was one thing, was me hand grinding on the turbine side, which related to the idea of coming up with a compressor side, which requires a lot, because it ain't just you have this envision, so you have to have a model, and then you have to have, somebody cut it for you, and then you have to have the testing. So there's a lot of steps to make this come to reality. So it was a lot, and you're talking not very many years ago, 2016, 17, 18, 19.
Right.
I mean, it went very fast to where we are today, and it didn't take us that much time to show how great that really is for the whole turbocharger industry.
Sure, yeah, from being, interesting, or then the skeptic, this is a big power gain that you're touting as potential.
Yep.
It's really not proven until somebody takes it out to either the dyno or their track. So being here at the PRI show, you make a lot of relationships, which is a great place to form relationships with racers and competitors. And we met some people from those early days that were willing to test this for us and take it to their dynos and take it to their track. And it really started to light up some, interest, because those numbers were proving to be true.
At what point did you guys realize that, oh, this is serious? Who was the first person that went out there and just proved that it was working for you guys? Anybody come to mind?
Well, we have been a part of the truck and tractor pulling world for a long time. That's where we originate. And Ryan was a tractor puller, like he mentioned himself. So we have a lot of people in that world that had a lot of faith in his ability, just from the experiences that he had with his performance shop. But I would say that when it came to an even larger audience of motorsports with drag cars and some of the folks that you'll see here at this show, I would say there's a gentleman named Nicholas Feliciano who came to see us and was very interested in our design. And he came to me, and we're great friends now. I would consider him a friend, wanting to become a dealer right off the bat. And as he was telling me some of his story, I thought, well, let's slow down a step. Let's see if we can get some testing accomplished first and prove to you what we can do. So we arranged for a visit where we would bring some products, some turbos, to his dyno in Georgia, and he arranged videographers to be present and a great team, a top tuner in the world to also be present during this testing time. And it was, I think, during that testing period where they were testing on a Honda.
Yeah.
It was a 4-cylinder Honda.
Yeah.
And
XFWD,
XFWD class.
Yeah, we have no idea. Now, this is all we don't even know anything about car racing now. When we come to the 2019 show, we were just hoping to be on one car. Because we were on a bunch of lots of tractors.
Yeah.
We were just hoping to talk to one car guy
and be successful on a car.
And be on one car, but I mean, obviously today we're on several, and we have a lot of world records.
Sure.
But
during that testing session is where we
that really
made
we
impact.
didn't even know what to do, what to even make. We knew it was a 73 millimeter turbocharger limit. It was a 73 millimeter is what which is we specialize in, is a bore restriction. So we knew we had to build that. We looked at the rules. We built a turbo to the rules, and we went to the dyno. And a lot of that dyno footage is on.
It's still out there today. Yeah.
And you'll see where we brought 3 or 4 different versions, because we have a couple different compressor cover sizes and different things that we did for bearing packs and things that we were testing. But we were gaining hundreds of horsepower each and every dyno pass.
Yeah, they did incredible. A baseline with the turbo manufacturer they had been using. Mm-hmm. So they did a baseline evaluation, and then when they put our product on, it was hundreds of horsepower over.
Yeah,
hundreds.
Same spec,
same size, same frame size, same engine, same car. Everything else was the same.
Put ours on, and it was wow.
So these guys were so excited. They were hugging and high-fiving and
We didn't know
jumping
why.
around. And I was freezing to death because it was so cold at this time of year. And they were just celebrating. And I remember Nicholas looked at me and he said, Deena, aren't you happy and excited? I said, I knew this was going to happen. You know, I'm
Yeah.
freezing.
Yeah, please get me in the warmth.
So at this point now, you've got to, I heard you spout
Proven
off
it.
that class, right? So now you've got to immerse yourself in this drag racing world now too, I suppose.
And that's kind of when it happened in the drag racing
It's
world. That
yeah.
kind of caught wind that we were achieving that.
Well,
and
here's the deal. That was kind of a double-edged sword.
it was.
Because we were the new kids on the block that had
Yeah.
this crazy product that they thought potentially was unsafe because it's different, you know? And we proved that. We proved that our product is not unsafe. It's actually safer because we have, you know, such great luck with it. Because we over-designed the product.
Yeah.
You know, we go through like so many details to how we put our products together, to how they're balanced, to how we do the wheels, and how everything is finally put together and shipped, that we have so much confidence in it that we, you know, it's, and people are already bad-mouthing us and putting us down, thinking that, you know, they wanted to rule us out because they thought, you know,
And
something.
we were met with some resistance
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure when we first got introduced to the drag world. There was some resistance.
a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
People like to put down what they don't know.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why I push for so many questions here, because me and Dan, we like to have it. We try to have an understanding of the various motorsports and stuff that we're involved with. Like I still don't know anything about dirt racing, by the way. We got to figure that out at the show, but it's just a matter of figuring things out. So, is there any chance you can kind of take us down the path of what are all the different advantages of going with it, like your turbo, right, over a traditional one? Because the most common argument I see is, oh, well, you know, the nut is this much surface area. That's not the biggest, you know, it's not that big of an impact. It's not going to add hundreds of horsepower. What about it being nutless allows for all that? Is there a few different components that allow for that?
well, you got to stop and think about how fast a turbocharger spins. Okay?
That's what I was going to say. That's a
So
lot
I
of
know
RPMs.
this area that they claim doesn't do anything, but spin that little area at 140,000 RPMs. I mean, thing is when your core is skinnier, your blade is longer, your core, you know, you're having more. One slice of air at one revolution is going to draw in that much more air at one revolution. You multiply that by 140, 50, 60,000 times per minute, you're gonna have more airflow, and it does. It makes more boost. It makes more, you know, it just,
And you also lost some mass.
yeah, it's lighter.
Unnecessary mass.
You
in
I
know?
would
the center.
imagine that allows you to move your blade out further, like you say, to that apex. So that gives you more,
Length.
yeah, more surface,
More
thin
s-
surface
right.
area at
A lot
that
more
same
area,
time.
a lot more surface area. So it decreases the weight, increases surface area. So each scoop it makes, it's scooping more air.
Right.
So
And at 140,000 RPMs, that adds up really
a
quick.
lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it adds up really fast.
Definitely magnifies. So
Yeah.
So when you clean out the exhaust side and you introduce more in, so think about your engine, lower back pressures, which is a common problem in engines, is back pressure, because it limits your RPMs. Back pressure and RPMs kind of go hand in hand. So when you're trying to race and you're accelerating, you're going high RPMs. What's your exhaust doing? Following. So if you could have a turbocharger to be so efficient that the exhaust pressure kind of ramps, but your RPMs can keep going and your exhaust pressure kind of plateaus, or it doesn't keep ramping, that's incredible. Because your engine's getting so much more fresh air, it's going to want to breathe more, it's going to make more top end, mile per hour, horsepower, everything. So you're going to see faster times. You're going to see more boost.
Mhm.
You're going to see cooler temperatures. You're going to see all the best things that a turbocharger guy wants. I mean, it's plain and simple. Like it only makes sense. I mean,
well, it makes sense, and it also has been proven.
Right.
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 yeah, it's
So-
not just like us sitting here saying we wish this works. We know it works.
Right, right. Yeah, and we have a lot of world champions that can vouch for that too, that, you know, it's been a game changer for them. And that's another nice thing about being here, is seeing our customers come back to visit us
Yeah,
that are
wanting
so
to hug
happy.
You know what I mean?
You know, we become friends, and just, you know, we've helped them make their goals in a small way. You know, we've been a little part of their desire to get a personal best, or to improve their time, or, you know, reach a goal.
Yeah, it's
Just
great.
recently, we were a part of, you know, there was a big push to break that 200 mile per hour. Everybody wanted to get into the 200 mile per hour area
In
with
the
the
sport front-wheel drive class.
with the sport
like,
front-wheel drive class. It hadn't been
199
done.
was the fastest anybody went, which was crazy fast.
Yeah.
So 200 miles per hour was in reach, but it seemed like it was impossible.
It was taking a long time. Nobody had been there until 2024.
Wow.
So,
and we had 3 cars go over 200 this year.
and they backed
Wow.
that up several times too.
And that's
so,
all your customers then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well-
So we started the 200 mile per hour club, the Apex
Yeah.
Turbo 200 mile per hour.
We always got to have a T-shirt for that.
Yeah,
200
we
mile
have
per hour club.
stickers
Yeah.
and badges, and they're on the
probably will,
car.
yeah.
So,
it's kind of a neat thing now because a lot of people that are going to an Apex Turbo, like Evo platforms to Honda platforms to basically anything, import, domestic, it don't matter. You know, they go, like, say if they've been at that 180s, 190s, whatever, it gets them where they want to be. You know, it pushes them over that little bit. It gives them over that hump. You know, it gives them that, hope, I should say.
Yeah.
So when they go to the track and they can do their, adjustments, your control of your, of your output, your boost control and everything. Once you get everything lined out and they're going faster.
they're not running out of turbo.
No, you're not worried about the turbo. I had a lot of customers say, I got enough turbo, I just got to figure out my car. Man, that's the next big thing is, traction control, getting all that stuff. It's huge now. You got turbo, you got air, you got power. It's not even a concern anymore. Now it's down to like an actual race.
Yeah.
You're not worried about my turbo blowing up or something.
Which is another thing that kind of helps. We've had really good success when it comes to reliability and longevity of our product. We get very, very few return, requirements to repair. So we're proud of that. We take it to a next level quality control check as far as what goes out our door.
So what does this do? Because that was going to be one of my questions is how does this affect serviceability of
Sure.
the turbo? Because
good
now you're
question.
not can't pull the wheels out as easily, I would assume. So
It's actually easier.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Surprisingly, the retention nuts that are on the turbine wheel are useless. There's no reason for that to be there. And
Okay.
on the compressor wheel, the original reason would be to screw it to the shaft. The turbine wheel and the shaft are usually one unit, and then the compressor wheel would screw onto the shaft, right? Without that, now you can view the Apex compressor wheel it acts like the nut. There isn't
is
an
the
extra
nut.
nut. So
Oh, okay.
It's-
it is the
The
nut.
backside of the wheel is threaded for a nut. Like I said, it's nothing new. Boreless wheels are always been threaded on the, not always, I'm saying some manufacturers back in the day used to have it, but they still had a nut to be able to service it.
Right.
You got to be able to spin it on, spin it off.
Right.
So how else are you going to do it by putting a socket on the end of the nut or on the end of the compressor wheel to take it off? It's either an independent nut, like a steel nut, onto an aluminum wheel, or now, with the newer style billet wheels, it's incorporated into the compressor wheel, like it's machined into the face of the wheel as the nut. So you use it to service it. So like one thing that was another challenge is when we get rid of the nut, how are we going to service this thing? You could spin it on, but how are you going to get it off? Because they get extremely tight. So then that was another one of our ideas, another one of our patented ideas.
We actually did patented it, so we covered the serviceability of an
Yeah.
Apex design as well. So
on the exducer plate, so you have this thick plate that holds the blades to the bottom of the wheel, on the back side of the wheel. It's like the plate, the exducer. So anyways, there's a lot of surface area out there, and it's strong, it's thick, it's a good spot to do stuff. So we put holes into that plate. So you can like either insert dowel pins into the backing plate to lock it, to spin it off, or you use a wrench to go over the wheel and allows you to tighten it. So we have a wrench that we patented that goes over the wheel, then you put a torque wrench on it and you be able to torque the wheel on. So when, we always Loctite it, torque it to spec, and then we balance it. So everything's like one complete unit. And then to take it off, we just warm the wheel up, use a torque wrench, and just, not a torque wrench, but just use a handle wrench and just take it right off. And
Okay.
it services so easy because you have so much more like torquing on a surface out here than you do up here. So
Right.
the companies that want to try to drive their cores as tight as they can and still have that nut on there, it's a weak point to try to fasten the torque. You can easily turn it on, but it's getting it back off because them wheels get super tight after you make some runs.
Right.
Aluminum warms up, the shaft twists, and then it cools down. You do that a couple cycles, that thing's going to get tight. So it's hard to service.
Huh. Yeah, 'cause
You
that-
guys
That was another thing we always kept seeing in the comments. It's like, oh, they're just trying to take away the serviceability from the consumer, you know.
No,
Okay, interesting.
but we don't really.
We wouldn't recommend the
No.
consumer to service them
That's
on
what
their
I
own,
was
but
gonna
there's
say,
a
yeah.
reason for that, and it's not
Yeah.
to take that away. It's more of a safety thing.
I'd rather send it back to the people that made it.
For sure,
Yeah,
because we can
definitely.
put the stamp of approval back on it.
Yeah.
And also, as soon as you take those wheels off or you get into that CHR past the point where you should be, it needs to be rebalanced. And people are not going to, most people will not have a high-speed VSR balancer
Right.
in-house that's necessary to make sure that, they're within spec for keeping it balanced. So we never would advise any of our customers to service the turbo themselves. Have them send it back to us, and we try to turn it around as quickly as possible. Sometimes it's less than a week. We try to keep that service cost as low as possible, but we want to have that brought back in so that we have some product liability too, with it being our product, to make sure that it stays balanced. Keeping your turbo balanced is extremely important.
Yeah, keep the vibration out of the bearing pack.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Any kind of vibrations and that will destroy a bearing pack pretty quick.
And it's such a high precision balancing requirement that most individuals would not have that equipment, available to do that. So that's why we want to bring it in house, and it's a safety thing too, and a product liability thing. So with that being said, with the fact that the balancing is so important, another key aspect of an Apex Turbo design is our triple ball bearing. Yeah. So that helps keep things balanced and riding straight and true. And also gives us some advantage.
That was another challenge when we first did the whole apexing of the compressor wheel. Is now we got a wheel that has more air, exhaust that has more out, so you're spinning it faster. So another challenge was bearings and shaft size. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board immediately, and we developed, going to a 3-bearing setup. So we have 2 bearings in the back of the turbine to help support the loads of the thrust. So we doubled them up instead of having a single row, and then a reverse thrust in the front. So basically it can support a lot more shaft load, and also having a double ball bearing helps like align the shaft as it's boosting. It's not just like a sloppy effect. The 2 rows of bearings kind of lock together, and they work as like Siamese. They help each other as this thing is boosting, and it keeps the shaft straight in line when it's boosted up. So it keeps your tolerancing more truer around the bore. So anytime you lose your slack in the wheel and your balance, or if you got to introduce more like machining tolerances around the wheel, you're going to lose power. So with our design, we can tighten everything up as tight as we can, keep a more, more like shorter clearances to allow more boost, a lot more like less, escaping of airflow. So it just helps, with our triple ball bearing to be able to be more precise, more reliable as far as like clearances and that are held a lot tighter. So that's another key factor in our whole design is the ball bearings and allowing for a larger shaft, and that's key. So you don't have any flex in the shaft. 'Cause anytime you got boost, you got load on the shaft, which causes the wheel to want to kick. So with a straighter shaft and better bearings, it's going to allow everything to kind of stay in line and be able to run a lot truer.
Imagine for a second you have to tell your loved ones an incredibly sad story. The story goes like this. You got all the parts you needed for your race car. You have put in all the necessary work to have it ready for the upcoming season, but you forgot the most important component of them all. You forgot to get an ECU. From tunedbyshawn.com, using code Minnoxide for 5% off site-wide on all Haltech goodies needed to have you ready for 2025. That's tunedbyshawn.com. Let's get back to the show.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. So I was gonna say, can you just sell your compressor wheel for people to spin on to other stuff? But because of the way it acts, you need other stuff there to support the faster
It's a
spinning.
unit.
Yeah.
It's a unit that works well together. Yeah.
Okay.
It's something that you would never just buy, like a drop-in wheel for your Duramax or something. You couldn't do it because the shaft's shorter, and the way we have our, the shaft drawing that goes into the wheel, and the tight tolerances that we use, so there's no slop in the wheel and shaft. Like we keep that so tight, so you don't want that wheel on the shaft and want to walk into the on the shaft bore or on the threading. That way at any boost level or at any shaft speed, that thing stays true. and it doesn't want to walk or move. And that means reliability and horsepower. That means at the end of the day, you could put 100 runs on this thing and not miss a beat. And that's crucial when it comes to buying a turbocharger.
Well, I think people overestimate how much they can do themselves too, right? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try to repair my own TV. I'm gonna go take and get a warranty on it, right? So I don't think anybody's gonna be spinning it on themselves. And also, this is like, what
Well,
you
they
guys,
do sell compressor wheels. Like I know some people you can get like a different design. So
Sure.
that's
But you also
why-
have to remember, we're talking about, this is the upper, I don't want to say upper echelon, but yeah, upper echelon of motorsport.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Like, you know, like, I don't want to compare it to F1, but the F1 guys, they're using top tier facilities, right? Same thing, you're trying to do the same thing sort of here as well. You're not necessarily selling it to 200 horsepower GTIs, such as myself. You guys are mostly selling to people who are in a competitive setting, it seems like they're going for that world record and
Yes.
such. So I don't think they're exactly. Well, we've had multiple record holders on the show. Even they send their turbos off back to the other
yeah, after a
competitors
few
too.
runs even.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
are you doing? So you started in the diesel, the tractor and truck pull stuff.
Yeah.
I don't do any pulls. I've got friends of mine that do, but I dabble in the diesel stuff. I have Power Strokes and stuff like that. Are you doing? So my wife's 7.3 diesel has oh my God, a KC turbo on it. Or do you guys offer stuff for your average diesel enthusiast too to swap out their
We
OEM design?
sure have been talking about it.
We have been talking about it. We got a lot of
asking.
people interested.
That's a big
Yeah.
market.
I mean, here's the deal. Somebody goes to a race and they're racing with an Apex Turbo. You know, they go to the race, they want to have the best, but they got to tow that thing there somehow, and they want to have a little more power to get them there.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, we've been thinking about, you know, making an Apex Turbo version, which we could. It'd be simple. It's just we're so busy on the performance world that we haven't really been able to stop and like try to develop it, which it would be.
But
easy.
it could be coming down the
okay.
road.
How many
It'd be very
employees do you guys have?
There's 10 of us.
10?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Relatively small. Like I said,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
just, you know, new at this, but we're growing and
We're growing.
steady
Yep.
and strong.
Yep.
Well, so what does that look like from you're grinding the nut down in your shop to like, this sounds like this was kind of a short period. So when do you go, okay, how do you reach out? So now you have to find somebody to make you housings and things like that. And I mean, did that all move pretty quickly too? Or what does that look like for somebody who has?
No, and then mind you, as soon as we launched in 2019, December 2019, we launched our product. And then we went to ramp up in 2020 and COVID hit.
Yeah.
Talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
put
Yeah.
the brakes on.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hurry up and wait.
That put a little slow down. I mean, we make almost every component that goes into that turbocharger except for the casted parts. We don't cast,
Right.
Okay.
you know, so
But everything else.
but
is
everything
made
else,
in-house.
you know, we make in-house. So that gives us a lot of control on the supply chain that way. Fortunately, we have some really great casting suppliers that have been able to step it up and get us what we need, you know, in a timely manner. So we made it through that COVID time without, you know, it was a nice launching a new product and you're growing. You got to
Yeah.
get your feet underneath you. And in a way, that slowdown, that forced slowdown I'm on, gave us a little more time to perfect the product and get our supply chain in order and get materials lined up and do a little bit more,
Right.
you know, growth in the design during those early years.
It was probably a good thing to
It
have
probably
a
was a
little
good
bit
thing
of a-
actually for
'cause
us. To,
Some people got really excited about our product too quick. And not to say it was nothing wrong, but it gave us time to develop the whole triple ball bearing thing. And that kind of stemmed us from 2019 to 2021. I think 2021 is when we come out with triple ball bearing. So it allowed us to get the shafts reworked and get the bearing design finished up. So, you know, there was a little bit of gap there that when things were slow, we were able to develop that and make it stronger and better for our customers. So if we'd have had a lot of units out there with the old design, we'd have probably had to get them all in and redo them all because
just
it's so
because he's a
much better.
perfectionist, right?
Well,
So-
that's what stems this. Well, we talked
Right.
about earlier. Rules
Yeah.
stem or breed
Ingenuity.
innovation,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
you start off by how can I get around this rule, and then my dad and I do the same when we build stuff at home. We build a deck or whatever. You over-engineer everything because that's how you want it to be
Right.
stronger than
Stronger.
you are going to actually
Sure.
need it for.
For sure, yeah.
So that makes a great product.
I'd rather have it go out over than under. You know what I mean? You want
Yeah.
this thing to be a tank,
Mhm.
you know, and never see it again.
Right.
But, you know, there's things that'll happen to it, but I'd rather have that and have a happy customer. But then they want to buy another one just because, you know, because because they're building another car, or they have a friend that has one, or they could tell them how reliable it is, and that, or we don't get too many people that buy like spares, but some people want a spare as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll buy a spare and never use them is the thing.
I'm a guy who likes spares. I have spares of everything.
Yeah, no, we've had a few customers come here today that are like, I have a spare, but I haven't had to open it. It's unreal because they're not used to that. A lot of times they'll go to these big events where it's a week long of running and they have to have a few turbos with them because they're expecting failure.
Something to happen.
Something to happen.
And you're going to this big money race and you don't want to be not with a turbo that fits your plumbing and everything, and you just can't go to your neighbor and borrow his turbo. You got to have your own.
So as a manufacturer, it's great to hear that they didn't have to have a spare. That says a lot about the quality of our product.
Like my truck and tractor pulling crowd never carries a spare just because they know what kind of product we have. They know that they don't need a spare because they just know.
I know that crowd. Those guys could rebuild a tractor on the side of the road too.
Yeah,
so it's a different crowd.
It is. It's pretty extreme. It's a really good group. I said
it is a lot of great people.
Are great guys. Like, I mean, I got to hand it to them. They're the ones that really drove me to be able to have this for the whole world to enjoy.
Because they always want more.
Yeah.
So how's the adoption in the tractor pulling world then?
The what's that?
How's the adoption in the pull world then? Is it like,
were you met with as much malice in that as you were?
No. I mean, our name was in tractor pulling for a long time. Like, me being a tractor puller for 10, 15 years. My family was into tractor pulling for 30 plus years. My grandpa was into it. I mean, we were a farming family, community. So that's what we did. You souped up your tractor. You go to the fair. You go to the local county fair with your souped up tractor to try to outbeat your neighbor that farms down the road. It's just part of it. It's no different drag racing. You want to beat your neighbor. You want to go faster than your neighbor. It's no different tractor pulling. You want a more powerful tractor than your neighbor. So that's what we did. And then I turned a business out of it. So I pulled, and then I put a dyno in. So then I put a dyno in, and then I put another dyno in. I had 2 dynos. And then I started building engines. So then I started putting them in tractors. So then that was a better success for me, is to be able to build an engine with our turbo that goes out there and wins.
For somebody else, not
for somebody
himself.
else, not for myself. We started making a business out of it and hiring people to help. So having that, and what I've learned off of that, and how to build turbos for that, and knowing how they're going to survive, because them guys put them through the test. They'll run 50, 60, 80 runs, extreme out, full on boost for 15 seconds, how many weekends out of the summer, and use the same turbo and don't even have a spare.
Yeah. Well, it's in the drag world, like they're trying to get their car as light as possible, right?
Right.
Now do that and then add weight as you go along.
Right.
They'd be like dropping another Honda on top of your car every few feet, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, think about that. You take your diesel pickup, you hook it to this flat iron sled thing, and you try pulling it.
Yeah.
But the problem is it gets heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier as it goes. So what happens, your truck is struggling, and what does it do? It starts to spin. Yeah. So you got to figure out, how am I going to get it down there faster before the spin out happens? So what do you want to do? You want to go put it in a faster gear, but you can't put it in a faster gear because you don't have enough power. So when you get more power and you put it in a faster gear, you're going to get down there faster and you're going to beat them.
Yeah.
So it's no different like drag racing. Same thing. Make power so you can go faster to get to the other end quicker. It's the same thing. But you got to have the power. You got to have the airflow. Fuel and air is what makes horsepower. Fuel, you can throw fuel in it, but you got to have the airflow to ignite it and make that piston go down harder. I mean, it's what makes horsepower.
Yeah.
So it's the key things. I mean, I can change piston designs. I can change camshafts. It helps, but it's not like changing a turbocharger. A turbocharger is where the power's at. It makes a huge difference.
So what about testing-wise? Because obviously there was a handful of years there where you're trying to figure things out as you go. When you were developing it, you were changing multiple components, not just one. So what did testing look like, I guess, over the course of those years? I mean, what kind of numbers are you seeing for how much air is flowing and all that compared to, I guess, a competitor? Does anything kind of come to mind on that?
You were running the dynos every day.
Well, that's where I
multiple times
learned.
a day.
When I run a dyno,
A traditional chassis dyno, right?
No,
an
engine dyno.
Like you couple the
Okay.
engine to
Gotcha,
the
gotcha.
engine to the dynamometer, and it pulls it down to my given RPM. So I know back to back when I make a correction in a controlled environment on the same day, whether or not it works or not, how
Okay.
much power it makes. So like say, for instance, I put a competitor's turbo on and we make 1,500 horsepower. So then, you could tweak the engine, change the fuel, change this, change that. You might be 1,550, but then when you change a turbocharger, and then you're like 1,600, 1,700 just by simply changing the turbocharger.
Step changes. And
Yeah.
it becomes obvious.
And like changing like different things in the turbo, my designs have changed, not much, like compressor wheel designs isn't, but compressor covers and like certain things about the turbo, like tolerances to like, your diffusers, all this stuff plays a crucial role with the turbocharger, how it functions. So you could be, little changes here and there could change 20 horse, 30 horse, and all that little bit adds up. So when you have the perfect turbo, it's like all those things into one. You got the perfect wheel, you got the perfect quenches, you got the perfect tolerancing. At the end of the day, you're not only 30 horse better, you're 130 horse better than the competition because it's all of it.
So are you a pen and paper guy? Are you doing this in CAD, or where are you doing
No, I
designing?
do it just in my mind, and I tell
we
our
have
guys.
engineers that we
Okay.
have on
Yeah,
staff.
I don't do it myself. I just have an idea and I tell them, and then
They make it
happen.
into CAD. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
And then we go test it. That's one thing nice about our facility is we got a wacky idea, we cut it, we test it. If it works, awesome. If it don't, we try it again. We'll do something different.
Yeah.
So
We try to limit him to so many wacky ideas a day, but
Well, someone's got to have them, right?
sure,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Our guy Keith, he loves it when you have a new wacky
Yeah, he
idea,
does.
right? So,
It seems like you guys are the perfect combination for this, what you guys got going on. That's,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We really enjoy seeing like the results that we've been getting. I mean, is it the best? I don't know. Do we try to be? Yes. I mean, we really try our best to really try to have a great product, to have people happy. And when we can see their success, it's
then that's success
it's
for
huge.
us.
Yeah.
Well, I think other people are seeing it too. Do you want to touch base a little bit on how much of a nightmare this has also been with, seems like you've been having some infringements and things like that. It seems
Yeah.
like this is,
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
can enlighten a little bit. Like, people come by and they're like, "Oh, that's Apex Turbo, awesome. I know so-and-so runs it.
yeah.
They're doing better now, blah, blah, blah." But then when you see other people trying to make similar things, because they walk by here and they say, that, and then, well, if you can't beat it, you try to either copy it or join it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a tough deal because if you can't beat it, they're going to try to copy it. And it's a simple thing to do. Once you already do all the work, then
So
I'll
and
just steal it.
with all of the resources everyone has today, it's really easy to copy anyone's product, right? But there's rules of engagement when it comes to business, and checking your patent landscape is probably the first one to launching a new
Right.
product. So that we did that, back in, I had some experience with that, fortunately, from my prior career. And that's step one, really. Whenever you have something that you may feel is a novel idea, you have to make sure that it's actually you're the first inventor of
Right.
that. So, that's step one, doing your due diligence there, and then making those, filing that necessary paperwork to get that going. And then the next step, usually when launching a new product, is to do a public release like we did here at the show. Once you do that, you've opened up the floodgates for anybody to take your idea, steal it, maybe disrespect those patent laws, and we see that. It's unfortunate. We see that, not only in other countries that may not have the same, laws around that. We'll see it right here in our own, where it's even more frustrating. So there's risk there when you come out with a new product. You got to protect your asset there by making sure that you have that paperwork filed. And
I know,
and-
like my problem was I was always going too fast. I would come up with an idea or do something, and then next thing you know, you give it to 30 people, and it's too late to do any kind of like patenting or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she slowed me up, which was a great thing because I probably would have done it, and then I'd had nothing to stand on. Because me and her sat down. I mean, the true story is, when we come up with the idea, it was even Deena's idea as well. Like, she was like, this you ought, if you're doing it on the exhaust side, maybe you ought to do it on the compressor side as well.
I think you might have laughed at me when I first said
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm like, that's going to be quite a challenge. How are we going to make that happen?
Yeah.
The more
like,
I
you
thought
need
of
to,
it,
because dual apex sounds good.
I know she's the one that said it from the get-go. So, of course, I'm laying in bed thinking, man, that would be something. So there again, I get out my hand grinder and I tried whittling down as far as I could a compressor wheel, and I dyno tested and it did pick up horsepower, but I still had the shaft through. I still had all that stuff in the way. So then we're like, let's get on this. Let's get a model. So we had a model drawn up. We had the whole blade to blade, got rid of the nut, did all that stuff, had a model made, and we had somebody that we work with that does some of our compressor wheels build us one. So he built us a compressor, because we didn't have a 5-axis machine. We was new at this, this is a dream. So he built us a compressor wheel. We dyno tested it, and we're like, wow, that worked phenomenal.
Like,
So that's what started it all. So after that, we.
So don't always laugh at your wife's ideas.
Yeah.
No. So that's the whole story, like back then. But before we even showed the model to anybody or even talked about it, me and her went to one of our local bars and sat down, and we had a couple beers and we started. I was talking and she was writing everything about the whole idea behind it. There's like 20 claims that we have on just
The
the
apex
compressor wheel.
design.
It's not only just the blades coming to a point. There's a lot of things about that. We even have it right down to internal set screw to jam the shaft to the thing. That's all patented. We have several things about that wheel, right down like 20 claims, I say. It's not just one. It's a lot of claims about how that
Right.
wheel works and how it goes on the shaft and everything. So all those claims we wrote, and then we submitted to our lawyer, and we had it drafted in 2018. Was actually filed in 2018, but 2017 it was drafted.
And then the patent came out 2020.
2020 we got it.
It went from
through.
patent pending to patented.
went quick.
Which is really quick in the patent world. Normally it can take 5 years. Usually a lot of back and forth.
I feel like I hear patent pending run. People.
It can
claim
run
that
for a really
long
long time. It
We
really
only had
can.
it for-
It kind of depends on how novel the idea is, really.
Yeah.
So the more novel, the less similar product out there,
Right.
the less similar idea, the quicker it would get to the full patented status. So that was also another confidence that this is definitely something the world hasn't.
Yeah. I mean, turbochargers have been around for decades, right? This is it's kind of a whole new innovation. It's exciting.
We
It
feel
is.
like it's probably the biggest change in turbochargers that
Yeah.
has been seen, at least for the last probably 30 years. A lot of companies, they'll make a new wheel, they might make a change to a tip height, they might make a blade configuration change, they may make a turbine housing change or tighten up an AR, little small step changes.
Right, tweaks.
Little tweaks
Yeah.
here and there to launch a new product. So I think, when Apex hit the scene, it was a totally new turbocharger.
Yeah, it's
so.
totally different.
And that's just because of his passion and interest in that. It was probably a pretty, stifled area of, new innovation for a long time before
Yeah. Other companies, like, you could tell that people were probably starting to think about it. You know what I mean? They were getting their hubs really small. Still had nuts on everything, but I'm talking you getting those hubs pretty small, but you can only do so much when you still got to tighten the wheel and take it off. I've seen nuts go down smaller and smaller, but never taken right off,
Yeah.
or never tried to get the blades to blade. Never tried to fasten it the way we fasten it. Never seen any of that. So we did it.
a lot of the people that are saying, hey, that's not going to help,
That ain't
it's
gonna
only
work.
small.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you think, the exact opposite is true.
Right. Can I ask you what brand or turbocharger you like to use before that? What you were putting
Well,
on
I
your
can be
engines?
100% honest. I have a really good relationship with Precision Turbo.
Okay.
We did. I mean, they've been great to us. I mean, they really have. I mean, we in the early days when I was so new at this, we bought a lot of components from them. I have nothing like they're a great company.
So that was your go-to before this?
It was. I mean, we got our truck and tractor pulling market too as well. I have people that I spoke with and talked to and worked with, on that side of the world. But as far as like the race cars and stuff, Precision Turbos,
They're the known leader.
they're the known leader, and we were working with them. Of course, Garrett's got billions of dollars of budgets,
Yeah.
and everybody copies Garrett. They can spend the money to do the
Well, they have
research.
the OEMs, right? So they've got they're sitting cushy.
Yeah, Garrett.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great. we're just trying to bring something different.
Yeah.
You know, right or wrong, we like it. Our customers like it, and I just
And we
think
don't
it's-
copy any other
No, there's
manufacturer
nothing.
design.
Exactly.
So
Well, you actually did the due diligence to go out and, you know, see if there's a patent and all that. So yeah, that's that extra step for sure.
Yeah, we scoured the walls. We went to SEMA in Vegas. Me and Deena did in 2018, I believe, and we walked everywhere. And we went to all the turbo manufacturers, and we looked. Not one person did what we did.
and we
went
spoke
to
with them, and we spoke with
PRI.
competitors and said, "Have you ever thought about?" And no, they've never thought
they're
about
like,
any of
yeah,
this. So.
no. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
so we jumped on it, and we did it. And we're happy about it.
So I'm seeing a lot of, again, 4-cylinder cars using this. I saw one video of a G80 shop that was starting to do it. Is that just because these work so well for that, or has it just not seen widespread adaptation to, I guess, other platforms?
I think it hasn't seen the exposure yet. Like,
So it's not designed for those cars in mind. It could.
no, it
It's
is.
designed
It's-
for anything that needs a
anything.
turbocharger.
I mean, we
really.
kind of got into the import world because I think they sought us out. So they kind of
They
went
were
to us
looking for more.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
the ones that were like wanting it, so we gave it to them, and they were seeing such great success. It's not just an import turbo,
Right.
You know, it's for anything. Like one of our great friends, Nicholas Feliciano, you know, LS motors. I mean, if you
Okay.
talk to him about how awesome it works on an LS motor, I mean, he's like, he's tested them all, and he can claim hundreds of horsepower over anything on his motors and his customers' motors. So, you know, and we got some on, you know, on some Hemis, and we got some on, you know, it's just not that many. You know, we're kind of more on that, but we want to be on everything. There's no reason why we can't.
Well, I would absolutely love to see, you know, footage and, you know, just again, it's people especially in the car world are just like, prove it, show me.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
they need to see it with their own eyes. So I mean, like, cause like again, when I was looking you guys up months ago, you know, when I did the first highlight with Sam, the first one I went viral. All I could really find was like I think a handful of Civics, and that's pretty much it. So I mean, you know, seeing, you know, the LS world adopted or the Hemis and all that, that would be super cool to see. Because
We have some on GTRs.
Yeah, GTRs, you know,
And that's a
got
class
really good.
restricted class
Right.
as
Yeah,
well.
68. So I mean, we got our 68 that we just introduced. It's a 6878. So
Okay.
you know, they do it on a twin platform on GTRs, and you know, they're in that bore restriction, so they're going to see great benefits. One of the customers put one on. You know, first race out, he did his personal best and still gaining. So I mean, there's a lot coming for him. You know, he's hoping to dive down in the 7s and even faster. So you know, it's great for them. I just, you know, hope the best for them and, you know, their programs, and for, you know, guys that want to jump aboard our product and try it. I think it's going to be a game changer for a lot of these guys. But it ain't all turbo, you know. They got to have their electronics, and they got to have everything right, because you know, they buy our turbo and think, I got the winning car now. That ain't always a thing. They go to the race and they got 10,000 other things. Jumps out of gear, or don't shift,
Yeah.
or you know, blow the bottom out of the engine. You know, if you see that, put the crankshaft in the oil pan. You know, there's other issues. So there's, you know, it ain't. I mean, turbos are just one part of the puzzle, but you got to have it. I mean, and if you're gonna have it, you might as well have a good one.
That's my favorite thing is, again, when we have record holders on, like, for example, like Aaron from Nth Moto on the show, you know, he has a very holistic approach to how he does the car. Again, you could slap, I mean, you've seen the back of my shirt, more bigger, you know, it's not always the solution.
Right.
Right.
But, you know, it's not just a matter of turbos. I mean, so it's kind of cool that you guys have that perspective as well. So when you were designing this over the course of, you know, a handful of years, did you have that holistic approach in mind? It wasn't just a matter of like, all right, shave this and shave that. You're trying to think about how everything would work together.
Well,
Probably not.
no. You know, I was kind of
yeah.
not even thinking about being where we are today.
No.
Yeah.
I was thinking about getting my customers more horsepower.
Yeah. He was
honestly.
thinking about his customers 100%.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
thinking about, at the time, I was going to make this awesome
He
super
was
farm
thinking,
turbo.
this guy
You know,
wants
with no
more, and I'm
nuts.
going to give it to him.
And when I show them how great it is on our dyno, they're all going to buy one, which that's exactly what happened. But then we spun off in 30 other directions. So, but no, that's exactly what happened. Like when in 2019, this thing's never been on the track, never been on a racetrack. We had 4 of them we brought to PRI, showed them off. We didn't even know if it was going to work. Talk about sweating bullets when you see this thing run for the first time. We ran it on our dyno, great, you know, no problems. But that's a short
Going down a
little
track
run.
is different.
Yeah,
Right.
there's so many different things that could happen during a track pass versus like a 5-second dyno pass. So, the first time we seen them things run down the track, people in the stands could hear the difference.
Really?
Sounded
We had
different.
people come back to us and say they did something different.
Yeah, that didn't sound the same.
That was not the same.
They could hear
and
that.
And the guys that ran our turbos went like 1 and 2, 1 and 2 both events. Fresh, brand new product. They did that great. So it was a game changer in that industry and a game changer in all industries. So I think that like what we've learned on a tractor pull, and I didn't think it would go like this. I just thought we are going to do it, in that class or a couple other classes, but why not all of it? Why not do them all? Because it works that great.
So suddenly now you're in the shoes of having to be a business owner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that I love, but it's a lot. People
Yeah.
don't realize how much it takes to, you can build a turbo, but I mean, there's a lot of components that you gotta,
A lot of moving parts.
got a lot of things to think about.
Now
A lot of things you gotta
QuickBooks
purchase.
to think about.
Yeah. If you want to,
Payroll.
exactly. I mean, it takes a lot, and of course, people want to come to you and want something for nothing, but you got a lot invested. It's a tough thing, I mean, you can't give stuff away because it costs a lot of money to put this product out there. We don't buy junk. We put together the best. We won't let it go out the door with nothing but. So, when they get a product, it's, we pour our heart and soul in this thing. And
Well, we were talking to one of your other gentlemen here before we got started, and you guys, everything's handmade right there in your facility, right? Hand put together and
everything.
sent out.
There's nothing that gets either assembled or made outside of our area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than like Deena said, castings and
Castings,
stuff.
yeah.
We don't have casting factories
No,
at our
that's
place.
that's a given on about
Yeah.
anything that's
Right,
doing stuff, right?
Let
Or
the
even
people
like
who
the
know how to
turbine
cast,
wheels,
cast.
but
Yeah,
as far as
exactly.
stuff, we have manufacturers that help us with some products, which we're appreciative of that. When we get into a bind where we need some things, people step up and they'll make us some compressor wheels or something like that. But they know it's for us, and we work well together. So, but as far as the complete turbo, I mean, it's made right in house, and we put 100% pride in it.
Are you getting pushback from these people that run the events? Are you guys now, you're kind of turning it upside down? Are they getting, because you're pushing the limits of this restrictions on sizes. Are any of them,
Complaining or
yeah, are you getting anything from that? Or
not really. We did it first.
In the very
because
beginning, we were new, and I think there was
Okay.
some fear of the unknown going on.
Yeah.
And there was a certain track owner that gave some pretty big resistance in the early days. But I think we worked through some of that.
I
And
don't
now,
know what they're nervous about. Like,
well, because their buddy Earl complained to,
Yeah.
they're friends with the guy who owns
Right.
the track.
Exactly.
We've all been on the track. We know
Right.
how this goes.
Right.
I did talk to one of the promoters. Big. Everybody know who he is. He runs the biggest race of the year.
Yeah.
His only concern was he has to finish that event like at a certain time. He didn't want a product on vehicles that created so much power that we'd have oil downs every single run,
Right.
which is
Well, that sounds like
understandable.
an import thing, but
Well, I mean, that's what his biggest fear was, having this crazy amounts of horsepower thing that people has not had experience with and have their engines destroyed every pass. Which does is slows the event down, causes issues, but it wasn't. I mean, they're extreme, but they're not that extreme. It's not like you're putting, whatever inside your fuel tank, causing whatever had happened. I mean, it's just like, it helps, but I don't know. There was no worries with it. People are going to have trouble no matter what, whose turbo they run.
Yeah.
It's just power management, knowing what you got to work with. So we haven't had any issues. Guys have been pretty decent with us, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, every year there's rules that change. So those are things that make it a little hard to forecast or plan too far ahead for a turbocharger manufacturer. The truck and tractor pulling rules change yearly. The drag racing rules can change yearly.
Yeah.
Sometimes those rule decisions are not in the perfect timing as far as lining up all of the components that you need to manufacture things. If they changed any more often than that, it would really wreak havoc on a manufacturing business. So, keeping in line with the rules has always been a very high priority for us.
Yeah.
It's like when we go through the sales process, it's really one of the first questions we ask. Share your rules with us. What are your rules, so that we know, how far we can build this to.
Yeah, you don't want to build something somebody can't
No,
use.
of course not.
Right.
We're both going to lose at that point.
Right.
You know, mostly
Yeah.
us, because we'll have to probably end up
Redo
taking it back or redo
Right.
it.
It's first
So,
question, is there any rules?
Yeah.
You know, if
What
they
are your
tell us
rules?
there's rule restrictions on any class, and
then
then
we
it
need
gives
to
us
know
something
that.
to build off of.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next requirements, your engines, what type of engine you run, and, whether or not what's your RPM limits and, boost requirements and horsepower requirements, things like that. Do we have flow maps? No. I mean, we could generate some, but our products range so much, different sizes, different things that we don't really have the need. The only thing our need is put it on the dyno or, put it on the racetrack and see what it does and go from there. But we don't have any flow data on our
That works
compressor
too. You
wheels.
guys are proving it anyway.
Right.
Well,
Um,
is there any like bread and butter setups that you're selling? Like, is there any like ones that are just like flying off the shelves, or is it just such a wide variety that it just wouldn't make sense to do flow maps and such?
It's a wide variety. We're kind of a custom made to order. Like when somebody calls in, we have so many varieties, like so many sizes.
Pick a number combination, we can make
Right.
it.
We can make anything.
So-
That's one thing nice about our company. It's not like we only have 10 different models and you have to have one maybe one of those. And if your rules is this one, say you got a 67 millimeter bore restriction, say we got a 68 and a 65. Some companies say, well, you can't run 68, it's too big. 60, you have to go with our 65. We don't. We're not like that. If you have a 67 millimeter bore restriction, we can make it 67. So I mean, that's one nice thing about like ours. We're not, we're not really stuck to any like certain wheel or certain models or whatever. But we try to fit the rules and try to make them, a little universal. Do a wheel trim or whatever it takes to make what they need. Because I've had that trouble too. I've called manufacturers 15 years ago and say, I got to run a 2.5-inch inducer, and they're like, well, we don't have that, but we can give you a 2.3, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to get that. It's gonna have to work.
But now I know I'm short.
Yeah,
you know,
I already
and-
know I'm gonna be behind, but what am I gonna do? So that's one advantage with our turbos. We can do just about anything. So it
What's
makes
your
them-
lead time look like?
Right now we're about 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's not
I mean,
bad at all.
Yep.
No, I'm gonna say that
Yep.
seems
There's
average.
times in the
Yeah.
year where it gets a little, hectic and it can get more like 4 to 5, but we
Right.
try to keep to that 4-week lead time.
We've tried to do like refurbs, where somebody needs a wheel or bearings, 1 to 2 weeks, and then 3 to 4 weeks on brand new builds. So the lead times aren't bad. I mean, really.
Yeah,
all
but we've also
considering.
had people drop off a turbo for service that morning, and because
Get it
they
that
have an
day.
event, we take that seriously too.
Yeah.
Get it done that
Okay.
day. Drop everything for this customer, and
Yeah,
it's
we've
done.
had to.
So,
That's how what kind of company we are.
right.
We try to, cater to our customers, make sure they make
Their
their
success
events.
is our success.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's 100%.
Great way to look at it. Well, in the short time that I've known you guys, it seems like you guys have a very logical way of approaching things, which is sometimes rare to see. A lot of people get emotional, especially when it comes to creating products and like, oh man, I hope it works out there. But I don't know. Do you feel the same, Dan?
Yeah, so we've talked to a lot of people that do this stuff, and your exact recipe is what all the successful people
That's
are,
what I want
are
as a
doing.
consumer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some people, so you talk about longevity. Like I think some people build something in the fact that, I'm gonna make money on the service, or like if they're buying a turbo from me every couple years, I'm gonna make more. But I see more success in the people that want their product to be number one right out the gate, so that they seem to be selling more and having more success than somebody who's like, I'm gonna see how much I can milk this one product for.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe how many like customers go out to the racetrack and then their buddies see how good they do, and then they come and order from us. Why
Yeah.
do we want to milk the same customer?
Right.
Why do you want the customer to go out and wreck something and he sends it back and we charge him $1,000 and he charges another $1,000? I'd rather just him keeping it and running it for 5 years, but yet 6 of his buddies buy one of our turbos. We're money ahead.
Yeah.
You don't want that guy to go out wrecking it constantly. That's more work for us, and we're not making much money on a refurb job. We want to sell new product,
Yeah.
Right.
and we want that longevity, and we want to be able to have that product last for our
We want to
customers.
be known as an elite product.
Right.
That's important to us. So that reputation and that image is extremely important to us. I would not want to put out a substandard product.
Yeah.
It's not something that is important, to have more volume in a substandard product. I'd rather sell fewer units that are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, turbochargers, they're not all bulletproof. I mean, I can't stand here and say our turbos will never have a mishap.
No turbocharger manufacturer can say
no.
that they won't
The
have a
engine,
problem at some point.
without the engine is what drives the turbo. Okay, so your engine, that's what tells it, the airflow and how fast it's spinning and what the temperatures are going to make and all that. So if you got too hot of temperatures, it would overspin it. Something could happen. If you suck something into it, something can happen. There's so many different things about what the engine is doing to the turbocharger that you can't blame it all on the turbocharger. Usually when something fails in the turbo, right away it's the turbo. But no, what's driving the turbo is the engine.
Right.
Did something come loose in your valve train or something and shoot through the turbo, cause the bearings to shake out? You don't know. You always hear like it's the turbo, but it's not always the turbo's fault.
And that applies to all turbos.
All
Yeah.
turbos,
Oh, yeah.
all manufacturers, they hear it so much. Like, if their turbos fail, it's always because, your turbo's junk. And that's not always the case.
Well, then they'll go blame the tuner. There's so many
There's
fingers to
so many.
point at.
It ain't
Yeah.
always the owner's never the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But some people say
Yeah, some
it was
people will
me.
tell you.
Yeah, I
We've had
forgot
some
the-
people say, "I'm sorry, I wanted to show you guys what it could do." Well,
I know some people are like, I'm so sorry. We're like, we don't care. We just hoped you were gonna do better.
yeah, we were rooting for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we kind of start to wind down here, there's a sweet old lady that went by.
She's giving us the wrap it up side.
Did she?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess on the innovation front, or what else do you guys have coming down the pipeline? Is there anything that you guys have coming up over the next year or 5 years? Is it just more expansion into the car market? I mean, what's on the horizon?
Sure. Yeah. Well, actually, we brought a lot of new products here
Mm-hmm.
today. We have a big interest in the side-by-side racing world. So we
Oh
have,
yeah. Another huge
this little
market.
baby turbo here on the end is slated for that class. The one next to it, there's a big draw and attention being sent in the snowmobile sector.
Yeah, 55
racing.
millimeter class. There's several race classes. They got all like outlaws and that, but the certain 55 millimeter we built, had a customer come to us today and say that they've seen like 800 horse out of a 55 millimeter, which is absurd.
Yeah.
So I mean that just goes to show you. I mean the tuner that was tuning it put the turbo on, and he had to go over his data. He said like 3 or 4 times, thinking it cannot be, but it was, which is crazy. So I mean, and that's something we just threw together. Like that was something we put together last year, this year. I mean, the turbo just, they all act and perform the same. So no matter if it's 150 millimeter or if it's 50 millimeter, I mean, the concepts are there. So you just adopt what you learn off of this and make it into that, and it plays hand in hand. I mean, it actually works. So, what we've learned, throughout the course of what I've done in the pulling world, transfer into the car world, transfer into the side-by-side and snowmobile world, or even on and on. I mean, we talked to all kinds of people with all kinds of unique applications, and it
we're
all.
on some really crazy units. The semi-uphill sled pulling,
Drag racing.
which is a real hoot.
Yeah.
Watching those beasts barrel uphill,
Pulling a load,
pulling
right.
a load,
barrel and smoke. Yeah,
with all their buddies in the cab rooting them on as
cheering
they.
on. Yeah, visualize this. You got you as you're driving a semi truck loaded with
Your
I don't know
friends.
how many pounds of weight, and you're racing somebody, but you have like 6 people in the sleeper yelling, "Go, go, go!" I mean, you got your foot basically through the floorboard because
Yeah.
you're trying to go as fast as you can, but they're still saying, "Go, go, go!" But
Yeah.
then you look out your mirror or your side your window, and you say, "I getting them." Or if you lose, and you're thinking, "Man, I wish I would have won."
Yeah.
Or then that's when they call us,
Yeah.
so they could be ahead of them. And then their guys are cheering and shouting.
So we're starting to see some
That's
attention
fun.
in that area. That's
I can't
kind of
imagine
fun.
the adrenaline these
Oh,
guys
absolutely.
get, especially the driver when you got 4 of your screaming buddies
That's
yelling,
insane.
"Go, go, go!" Can you imagine if you could have a buddy in your race car
Yeah.
screaming, "Go, go, go!"
Well, you've had a buddy in your race car. That's how
I
you broke a
have.
wheel.
There's screaming going on, but I don't know if it's that. So has any of this made you want to get into anything else? Are you still doing tractor pulls? Are you
No,
running a
I've
tractor? Are
been
you
out of-
building engines still?
Yeah, we
or-
build engines. I've been out of like pulling for 12 years. I think I quit.
Okay.
So I've been out for quite a while. I have no intentions of getting back in. Race cars, no, nothing. I just like doing what we're doing.
Okay.
Watching our customers and watching our products and I don't have any intentions really. It's fun to be around. Once in a while, you see me in the pits and stuff, but
Yeah.
you know, especially in the tractor pulling world, it's good to go give, you know, pointers and talk to my customers and stuff like that. But no, I don't know. We're too busy.
Yeah.
You know, we have 5 kids, me and Deena, so it's a lot of
Somebody
work as it is.
finally beats Dan.
Oh,
I've
yeah?
got 4.
Ah.
Yeah.
My oldest is here with us this week, so
Nice.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
14.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are busy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're busy.
Well, 3 boys and then identical twin daughters. They're 10.
my.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
So are you the boys working
Yeah.
for
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys?
Yep.
And,
As soon
yeah.
as they get off of school, they come and start scrubbing on turbos and that.
Yeah.
They're not putting them together yet, but
No.
they're good cleaners.
Well, you come
know?
from a farm community type thing. That's just what I mean.
yeah, that's just what you
my,
do.
Yeah, my kids are the same way. That you're pitching in around here. The more I'm working, the less fun we're out having. So
Yeah.
might as well pitch in. We'll go do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
We're still involved with farming too. We have a little home farm that we're
Okay.
tinkering around with, so that's a little stress relief is jumping into a tractor and going up and down the field. It's always a lot of fun. So we kind of do some of that too. And my boys love it too, you know, the farming and they got diesel pickups so like rooting around with, so it's still in our blood, but yeah. Turbochargers are definitely a cool thing, and you know, we'll continue to try to make them better and make them go faster. So, yeah.
He built his first turbocharger in the 5th grade.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mounted it on a go-kart when I was in 5th grade. I drew it all up because in school I didn't like school a whole lot, so my mind's always working on something else. So I actually drew an engine and mounted the turbo on it and everything. Then I went to our shop. My dad had a repair shop, so I got the cutting stuff and welding and fabbing, and I made a little manifold, mounted the little thing turbo on it, made a pipe and everything. It didn't work very good, but it was cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But that
That's
was a
awesome.
long time ago.
Yeah.
I was
was-
bird watching in the 5th grade, by the way.
I don't
was
know
my
if you should edit that out. I'm just saying.
But yeah, a lot of history and performance with us and our family.
Oh,
so.
it sounds like it. And we'll definitely have to come out. Today I found out you guys are not that far from Detroit, so we'll have to
Right.
come out for a round 2, of course. We're planning a Detroit trip once again for
Sometime soon.
sometime in 2025. When
Okay.
it happens, who knows? But I'm really pushing for January. We'll see what happens. But on that note, Dan, do you want to pop the usual 3?
Sure.
And then you can do a Minnesota goodbye.
Yeah, this is gonna be interesting. So at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guest or guests to pick 3 cars. We need a track car, a daily driver, and a show car. So
You have an unlimited budget.
unlimited budget. Yep. Sorry, I'm rusty at this. It's been a little while since
know.
we've yeah.
What do you think? I'm more of a truck guy, so
Yeah.
You can start. Let's hear. You sound confident.
Well, I know what I would like for a show car. My dad has a 64.5 Mustang that has been in his garage my entire life, and I've never seen it run.
It sounds like a any car guy I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could never touch it. I don't think we were even allowed to open it or sit in it, but I've never seen it run, and he was always going to restore it.
Yep.
I would love to see my dad's Mustang restored and go and be in a show.
yeah,
that
that's
would be
cool.
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, what about like a new car that you're
New
thinking?
car?
Like,
What's your daily driver?
Or daily driver.
Yeah.
My minivan, I love it.
With 5 kids, you have to love
You
it.
have
I don't have
to.
a choice. I have to have it, and I brag about it. You know,
Right.
What kind of minivan?
Chrysler Pacifica has the
Okay.
TVs, and I told him on the way here. I'm
This
so
is-
glad we brought my van. It drives like a living room.
You get tired of the rough riding pickups.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, we
I
drove
do.
my wife's excursion here. Plenty of room, but it is a little bit of a rougher ride.
Right. Yeah, go with the minivan. I thought I would never ever like my college self if she, heard me saying I love a minivan.
Yeah, I was like, I am not buying one of them ever.
Now it's the first thing he jumps in.
It
and
is. I gotta go to town. I jump in that instead of my pickup.
It's a great car. Yeah.
Uh,
But if I didn't need all of that functionality, let's see.
Probably some Audi or something.
Yeah,
probably.
probably. If money was no object, it would be fun to drive a Ferrari.
Ferrari.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Like the new Ferrari SUV, not an SUV.
Yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about track car?
Oh boy, track car. I think I'd be terrified to go down the track.
And there's different types of tracks, drag strips.
You got
road
as
course.
you've been hanging out at some of these drag trims, have you got any cars that you really like? Maybe you wouldn't drive it, but you'd be like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I went to the Texas 2K earlier this year, and there's a lot of impressive cars
Yeah.
at that event.
Yeah.
We'll
Saw
be there again.
Yeah, oh yeah. Saw the Lamborghinis. Those are really sweet.
Yeah,
So, there we go.
GTRs,
Yeah.
Lamborghinis,
Yeah.
something
All
like
right.
that.
All right.
Put me in one of those.
All right. So a UGR.
Probably a UGR
Yeah.
STO, yeah.
Yeah, it's about, I have no, like, I'm kind of like her, same kind of stuff. Whatever she says, I'm
Yeah?
Yeah.
You want to do a different daily?
What's
You
your
wanna do a
favorite
day-
truck?
my favorite.
What are you
truck.
driving?
I've been Ford my whole life.
Yeah, it's
But then
good-
I
good
bought
man.
a GMC. But I
Oh.
love that GMC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan was like, oh.
I was all excited, then you disappointed me right
Yeah,
away.
but I
Well,
still
we
like
still have
Ford.
2 Fords. and
Yeah.
He has a 1997 Ford F350 that is mint
I
condition
bought it
in our
brand
barn.
new. It's got 54,000 miles on it.
Really?
It's all original.
This is a 7.3 truck?
7.3.
Really?
It was. If you know me, it's pristine because I'm super fussy.
Mm-hmm.
So this truck is immaculate. I had it in an air bubble,
Yeah, that was
so
the
it wouldn't
biggest
get any
joke
moisture
in our
on it.
family.
So when I first
Really?
bought the truck, it's a 97. So it's last year they had that.
Yep.
That square
OBS.
body. Anyways, I brought it. I used to paint back in the day when I was fresh out of high school. I was like I restored things. I had a paint booth. So I pulled my truck in my paint booth, took the tires off, and they put hardly no paint on the frames when you get them brand new back then, like nothing. I don't even think they painted them. So I went in there
I think
and
they
I
just treat them with something.
did
Yeah.
an awesome paint job on the whole undercarriage. So that carried through. It's still on there today, but this thing is so nice. Like I don't even let my boys even breathe on it.
Because they'll want to put aftermarket things
I know.
on it.
It's all original.
It's
like-
probably worth more than you paid for it at this
Oh
point.
yeah, I
Oh,
paid
yeah.
$27,000 back in.
Yeah.
Well, I got it in 1996. 27,000. I actually put right in the dealer's lot. I put leather interior in it. It was not an option back then. It ain't like today. So we took the cloth out and they put leather interior, which is still in it today, which is sweet. It still smells like it did when I bought it.
Oh
with
my God.
50,000 miles. The only time I ever racked up the miles is, like going to see Deena. You know what I mean? I mean, she went to college down in Kentucky. So once in a while, I'd take a little trip down to Kentucky from Michigan, which was like, how many miles? It was quite a ways. So
You did let it come out of the barn, and our oldest got to take it to prom.
Ooh.
But it was strict rules. Right to prom and right back.
Yeah, no parties, no nothing, because it's gonna get stolen.
Right.
I mean, I think it's cool. People think I'm nuts, but it's pretty sweet to have.
Is
something.
it like extended cab, regular cab?
regular
long?
cab? It's the regular
Okay.
cab, long box.
Okay.
It's got the stock wheels and tires, and there's not one thing on it that's not factory. So it's like showroom. It's actually better than showroom condition.
Wow.
Because when I got it, I buffed it and everything when I got it when it was brand new and painted it. But the original tires and rims and everything are on it the day I bought it. I had some aftermarket ones which saved the original ones. Ran them for maybe 20,000 miles of the 50,000 that's on it. So even the original Firestone tires are still like pristine condition.
Wow.
I mean, it's a piece I'll probably hold on to forever because I don't care if somebody offered me $100,000 and I wouldn't sell it.
Was that a daily or a show?
Have to be a
That's-
show now,
that's
right?
That's a
all of
show.
it, yeah.
Sounds like a show
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. My
It's just
daughter
cool
would go
because you
nuts.
don't see them. In
Yeah.
fact, when I bought a brand new truck, okay, and I go up to our stoplight in our town, nobody even cares. They don't look at you. But when I drive that other one to town, I about cause an accident.
Yeah.
People like, what is that? Or they'll stop at a gas station. Man, that's freshly restored. I said, nope, that's original. What? There ain't no way. I'm like, yep.
That's what my daughter would scream in my ear if we were driving past that truck. She
Oh, yeah?
absolutely loves
Oh, yeah.
them. Yeah. She's
Yeah.
got one. I've got her. She's only 14, but I've already bought her an OBS
That's cool.
F-150 that she'll be driving. So.
Yeah. They're neat. I mean,
Yeah.
that kind of thing's coming back.
Yep.
This old, like, I don't know. It's cool looking. I can't stand riding in it. They're such
Pretty rough to
rough
ride.
riders.
It's not like a minivan.
It's an F-350, and you feel like
Yep.
a rut this. You're like, boom.
I would say rides like a hay wagon.
It
Yeah.
does. It's bad. Yeah, but it's cool.
We got that nailed down. I refuse to let you just be like, all right, I'm taking her answers.
Yeah.
For your track car, would you do another a tractor? Like you do for tractor
Probably.
pulls, I mean?
Well, I did 10 years ago. As soon as I sold our tractor, I bought like a chassis because my intentions was to build another one.
Right.
But I never did. I threw it in the back corner. It was like the whole rolling chassis, tubular frame, roll cage, everything.
Okay.
So my son drug it out of the barn last year.
Okay.
So he stuck it in the corner, closer to my vision or closer to me stumbling over it. And
He's got a plan.
Yeah, I bet.
so I thought about maybe, building an engine and restoring it and putting it together.
The
Not
unlimited
for me,
budget's
but for
coming
my
back.
boys to pull, because it's fun. The adrenaline's just as good as race car driving, because, when I used to pull, you're hooked up to something and your front end comes up and, you got the smoke and you got to steer it with brakes, and it's cool. I mean, it's a lot more fun driving them than watching them.
Right.
Because it's like watching paint dry when you're there, but when you're on it and you're competitive and you want to beat the next guy,
Right.
there's a lot of things that you got to think about and do to try to outwit the next guy. And it was kind of my thing is, I was a gray national champion last year I had it. So I won the whole shebang in our circuit. And that's when I gave, that was it. I was done. It was the best time to get out when you're at the
retire
top.
on top,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Right.
So, of course, you always have the rumors of cheating and this and that, and it was just like doing turbo stuff and outwitting the next guy. And, I mean, it just made us who we are today. So then people wanted me to build their engines and test their engines and build the turbos and everything else. So it become quite a deal for us.
So this might be as controversial as asking what truck you drive. What brand of tractor are you a fan of?
Now we disagree on that.
Yeah. Well, or my dad and my grandpa. My grandpa started a business which was International Harvester.
Yeah.
So he owned a dealership. My dad and his brother bought it out. So that my dad was actually owned a international dealership, and then it converted to Case International. So of course that's my brand, the red brand.
Yeah.
So Case International is like my color. Everything we have is that. But then
Which
I
is who
marry
makes
into
the 7.3 also. So
Yeah,
that
everything's
helps with-
red.
Yeah.
And then my wife, well, we met in high school as I was a senior. So we've been together for 30 years. So her family was all green, John Deere.
Yeah.
So talk about some conversations when I
Sure.
went over there, you
Yeah.
know.
They're
But
like
it was
those
good.
Deer people are like the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
They're very
I know.
passionate about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean, I do have some John Deere equipment now, a couple pieces, and I like them. They're all good. Ain't no different pickups. I got a GMC.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it rides great. I love that truck.
Is that what you're gonna lock in for your daily then, a GMC, or you got something else you would do for a daily?
No,
You telling me a Pacific?
No.
She's
I've
got
been-
an excuse.
I would like a brand new Ford, one of
Okay.
the F-250s, 4 doors.
I'll accept that.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thing. I've been looking at them, but she's like, no, we got to buy more turbo parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the problem with your own business,
Right.
You can't go splurge on yourself because you got to keep your business going.
No,
One of these days, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are doing awesome stuff, so I can't imagine that wouldn't be.
Well, it's an exciting journey. They're
Yeah.
on, yeah.
It is. It is. It's exciting.
Well, on that note, where can people find you? Do you want people to find you?
Yeah. Yeah. You can find us at apexturbo.com.
Yep.
We're in the middle of getting a new site to launch on March 1st. It'll be brand new.
That's exciting.
Yes,
Yes.
we're really excited about it. Actually, when we leave here next week, we have a great photo shoot lined up. We're excited about that. So customers have been asking for an improved site, and we're going to deliver it, and I'm so excited about that.
That's
so they'll be
awesome.
able to
That's
find
gonna
us
bring
there.
us like way
Yep.
better.
And
You'll be able
then-
to shop online. We hope to have turbos available to purchase
Sweet.
online.
Yeah. and
Accessories
and-
like gear,
More
all that
information,
stuff.
too.
More information. Because we've been going so fast, we haven't had time to stop and even think about
That's
social
what it
media
sounds
or
like, yeah.
websites.
Yeah.
So now we're like, okay, now we got everything's kind of going like a well-oiled machine. Let's try to focus on people reaching out to us and being able to like purchase our products. So that's our goal for.
You
know-
heard that, by the way, right? We're too busy breaking world records to
Right.
do a
Right.
stupid shop.
It's very nonchalant. Yeah.
But,
That's
we're old-fashioned too,
Right.
so we really appreciate getting to know our customers. So we like the phone call too.
Yeah.
We'll answer the phones. We like to learn about what you're trying to achieve and really build that relationship. So I think that might set us apart too from some of the other turbocharger suppliers. Is
Yeah,
we
call
will-
Ryan and Deena instead of, Apex.
Yeah, we want to
Yeah.
talk to you. We want to get to know what your goals are. We want to get to know that, and that's really hard to do, through a website, right?
Yeah.
It is.
So,
Unless you're absolutely certain what you're after, which some classes you are. When you know which one you are, if somebody has one that is that model and you could go buy it, so be it. But it's nice to know the people's stories and get the
So-
right fit.
we appreciate reaching us by phone as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, and then we Facebook and Instagram. Those actually might be a little bit tougher for us because
Right.
it can be a little overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
So, but if somebody takes the time to make a call and talk to us, that's usually a really good way to get something, you know, ready for them.
I'm curious, are either of you avid readers at all? Check out a book called They Ask You Answer. I think you might appreciate it. It's awesome. It's all about the marketing side, getting the customer to know you, the customer journey. That is probably one of 3 books that changed my life, and it's a big reason for the success of this podcast. So I highly recommend it. I'll try to find the author. I'll send it to you.
Great.
But,
Yeah.
but They Ask You Answer. They also have a program that they coach people on or whatever too. I attended it through my last job. It was cool, but I like the book more.
Yeah.
Might be worth checking out.
For
but
sure.
On that note, this is super awesome, guys. I'm glad I got to finally put faces to names. So thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah,
thank
thanks for
you.
the opportunity.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it's fun to talk about like us. I mean, sometimes I get all excited and
Yeah.
heated about it, but you know, I really wish our people knew our passion that we put into our product, because we do. You know, we're in. I mean, of course, everybody wants the money, but it's the passion. You know, it's like what we do to try to make them, you know, achieve their goals and things. You know, it's all about like our you know, our product and
Yeah, we want to see them succeed.
exactly meet their goals, and that's a big part of our business.
Yeah.
I'm stoked. This is gonna be a fun journey to watch. I'm
Yeah.
excited. Well, we'll have to connect with you guys. While we're here at PRI, of course, but also next time we're through in that Detroit area. So,
Definitely.
but thank you so much for coming on, Dan. Thanks for existing, and we'll see y'all next time.